How's it going, everyone? It's Abdallah here, bringing you guys a tutorial video on how to carve a Pikachu Pumpkin and, of course, how to carve an Eevee Pumpkin in order to get ready for the upcoming launch of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. By the end of this video, you guys will have some really cool pumpkins, so grab some supplies because here's what you'll need. You'll need some pumpkins, some carving utensils, access to a printer, a marker, scissors, adhesive tape, and some candles. Now, right off the bat, you may be wondering, hey, where do I get the stencils from? Well, luckily, over at Pokemon.com, if you type in Halloween into the search, you should be able to find the Halloween page where they've got multiple options for new Pokemon Pumpkin stencils. Now, regardless of if you're watching this in 2018 or in the future, there's tons of stencils online on the internet anywhere. So go check them out. The official ones are actually really cool, and they've got multiple Pikachu ones, and they've got a really cute Eevee one that we're going to be using right over here. So simply put, click on this one, and of course, if you guys have access to a printer, print it out. And of course, we're going to be using this one for Pikachu over here. So print them both out, and you guys should be all set and ready to go. Now, as far as carving utensils go, you guys can pick up a pack of the cheap and easy carving utensils at your local supermarket, or of course you guys can use a spoon and knife if you guys want to. I'm pretty sure you can find some household ingredients and or items around your area. So once you have your pumpkins, you guys can absolutely start by hollowing them out. That is your first step. So hollowing out a pumpkin is going to be pretty easy, of course. You guys can see me struggling here with this kitchen knife, but we're going to use the little carving tool in order to get it. Now, a pro tip for this one, from what we've learned, is Jess is doing the up and down motion while I'm carving at an inward diagonal from where the little top is. So make sure that you guys carve at that inward diagonal so that your pumpkin lid will stay on perfectly fine. Yeah, take a look at all those. Now, we've got the baking dish over here simply because we like to roast our pumpkin seeds. So yeah, in case you guys like doing that, feel free. All you have to do is wash them, get all that like gunk pumpkin nonsense off of them, and then let them dry overnight, and you guys can roast them in the oven. It's gonna be really fun for you. All right, so things are gonna get down and dirty from this point out, so totally roll up your sleeves because you're gonna grab all of these pumpkin guts out of your pumpkin in order to make sure the inner walls of your pumpkin are nice and smooth. As you guys can see, we brought a couple of different bowls, and yeah, that's all the pumpkin guts right there. Nice face, Abdallah. Who is that guy? Anyway, so you guys can see that our pumpkin bowls are filling up with all these guts. It looks like spaghetti, but of course, it's pretty nasty. But by the end, you guys should have a fully hollowed out pumpkin. So, now that you guys have two hollowed out pumpkins, we're going to show you guys exactly what we're going to do with the Pikachu Stencil. As you guys can see over here, Jess on board is grabbing some of the adhesive tape that we talked to you guys about earlier, and we are using the little like divot tool in order to poke all around the lines of where the Pikachu should be carved at. So if you diligently do that on every single black part of the Pikachu stencil, you guys should be all set. So it's really hard to do simply because you're taping a piece of paper that's flat on a round object, so that's a little tough. All right, here's where the marker comes in handy. You're gonna need to potentially connect all the dots and of course fill in all the spots that you feel you're going to need to cut out, especially for this Pikachu where his cheeks, his mouth, his eyeball, the tips of his ears, and of course his stripes on his back are gonna be ones that you're gonna hollow out completely, just like the stencil over there. Now that we've done that with the Pikachu one, let's take a look at the Eevee one. Now, I would say the Eevee one is going to be a little bit more for the experts. So if you guys are having trouble with this, I know I had a really hard time finding the fine tuning of all of Eevee's fine lines. So of course, ask help from your parents and or friends to give you a hand with it if necessary. Now you guys can see over here the divot tool, we're poking on every single one of these little lines here, and it's gonna take you a little while in order to do so. I got a little frustrated with the edges of the paper, so this is where the scissors come in handy. I was using the scissors in order to get a better way of making the piece of paper flat on the pumpkin. So feel free, guys, if you don't want to do the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, cut out the actual characters and tape them on there accordingly. So as you guys can see over here, we now have the marker. We're coloring in, we're tracing, just so we have our entire Pikachu and our Eevee on our pumpkins ready to get carving. So our next step is going to be carving the actual Pikachu. So we've got Jess on board right over here, and she is going to be diligently carving through this entire pumpkin while the little stuffed Pikachu keeps on falling down over there. But feel free to access the inside of your pumpkin in order to shape up your different curves so that you can have an easier time with it. Now, one of the pro tips that Jess was telling me when she did her pumpkin was that whenever there is the black line of where you traced, try to cut on either sides of the black line so you get a more prominent cut in your pumpkin so that when the light needs to shine through, it'll be a lot more prominent than if you just did a single cut through there. It also helps if you have a cleaning cloth because there's going to be a lot of the pumpkin guts all over the place, the pumpkin innards, and in order to not cloud your vision, so it totally helps out with wiping those away and then of course cutting the pieces accordingly. So pay close mind to where there's gaps in the design because you don't want to connect every single line or else your pumpkin is going to be completely hollowed out and your Pikachu won't stand the actual design that it's meant to. So keeping in mind that the Pikachu, like underneath his armpit, it's not connected to his arm, and his tail is not fully connected to his body. That's simply because you need the anchor points on your pumpkin in order to make sure that you don't lose your entire piece. So be very careful around Pikachu's eyes and his mouth, as those are very, very sensitive areas for this pumpkin. You can easily have like a slip in your hand and you'll be able to mess that up. So just be very careful about that. And of course, be careful of where you're chiseling too. You definitely don't want to cut yourself. Okay, looking good. All right, so now this is going to be a really, really tough one. Eevee I thought was going to be super easy, but taking a look at every single one of the lines, all the directional cuts that you have to do, this is absolutely one for the experts. You guys can see over here that the first ear, I made the mistake of not making multiple anchor points on it because the design didn't have any, so I thought that that would be pretty easy. So what I did is I skipped that ear and I moved to the second ear and I made 2 anchor points on the top of the ear and the bottom of the ear so that, simply put, I don't have this floppy ear that I'm working with, especially when you're working with hand tools. Now, this is a tutorial with hand tools. I mean, you can absolutely use a power tool, a drill, a Dremel. You can absolutely use those if you want to, but of course, we're doing it old school. Of course, it's gonna be a lot easier and more accessible for the younger kids if you guys have some at home. So as you guys can see over here, Eevee's main light area is going to be his fur on his chest, right underneath his neck. So that's going to be really good. And of course, he's got eyebrows, he's got a nose, and a very sensitive eye area. So make sure you guys are very careful about that because you can always cut a lot less, but if you cut too much, then it's going to be over. So be very careful about that. You know, feel free to poke the bigger pieces into the pumpkin and grab those later rather than attempting to pull them out. So here's my second attempt at that first ear. It's really tough considering the fact that I don't have that extra anchor point, but I'm making do with it simply by accessing the inside of the pumpkin and going from there. We really only have one more little line over here, and you can see that I'm holding onto Eevee's head so that it doesn't kind of move around and potentially break off, because a lot of these gaps are very, very thin, and there's not too much pumpkin in between them. So there you have it. The carving of the Eevee. Pretty awesome. You just got to do a little bit of touch-up so that the light shines on through. And as you guys can see, Pikachu Pumpkin looking pretty cool. Of course, it could use a couple more touch-ups. You can see the cheek has a little bit of the pumpkin innards on it, but we can easily touch that up a little bit later. So this is where the candles come in play. Grab your candle, or of course, if you guys have the LED tea lights, feel free to use those as well if you don't want a potential fire hazard. We use candles for this one because they smelled really good, and that's what we had on hand. But of course, we're going to be ordering some tea lights in the future. And of course, here's the Eevee looking very brilliant. I spiced him up. He looks awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for our video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Feel free to let me know in the comments what kind of pumpkins you guys have made. And of course, tweet me your pictures at Abdallah Nation on Twitter. I can't wait to see them. So, happy Halloween to all of you guys that celebrate. And of course, if you guys guys enjoy this tutorial video, be sure to smash that like button and share the video with a friend. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.